Hello. I'm hoping that everything is functioning properly here. If I sound a bit tired, it's because I am. Okay. Whew, what a day. I had such an interesting day. I'm a little bit sleepy, but I really want to talk about like what happened today because it's just a really good example. It's a good example of like how I'm used to living life. And so I guess I just want to I'm gonna document it. So yesterday I had stated that um, animals. I was taught as a child, um, not just as a child, but as a child and through growing up, that animals are messengers and that they deliver messages, and that it's never a mistake uh, when an animal makes itself known to you. Um, I didn't memorize like the messages each animal brings because they're so deep, you know, and there's so many different animals, and that includes like butterflies, or dragonflies or ladybugs or whatever. So it's pretty vast. And but I used to have a book that was given to me, um, and a book even before that, where I would, go through the index and find that animal that I had encountered in the day, and then, discover what the message was that it was coming through. Um, so I had stated that before, but I also talk a lot about reflections, that reality is a reflection, and that's totally, even if I try to make myself not think that way, even if I try to get myself to not believe that or not look at it like that or not perceive it like that, it still reinforces itself anyway. So I don't even know why I just am I gonna give up trying to not? I don't know. It's the scientist in me. It's the skeptical, like pushing against to make sure that it's valid within me. So um so I had been going through healing, and I've been through it's going to take a while of me doing these podcasts to get comfortable with just talking about the stories that I have to tell, which I had said that in my yesterday, I think, the stories that I have to tell, and um, experiences and stuff that I've had. But what I will say is that a lot of the experiences that I've had, although it's within my character, because my character has been refined such, and I choose love, and it's just how I function, um, and I love people. I love humans. I love animals. I love nature. I love, and by choosing love so often, it's got me to a point where I just love everything. However, what I've experienced in my life has made me very afraid, and I don't know if it's because I slowed down and I have peace. I have a peaceful, comfortable, safe, stable environment, that the self-reflection and the healing, that I had to face that I'm afraid, you know and I'm mostly afraid of interacting, which is so weird because that's all I've ever been doing all my life. So I don't know if it's, am I really afraid of interacting, or is it the healing, is it still taking place so then I'm not afraid? Anyway, this has been sitting in the back of my mind while I'm kind of just like adjusting and trying to continue on in life, because the thing is, going through this healing process, it's not very fun. And I really enjoy having fun. I don't really know anybody who doesn't like having fun, but I do love having fun, and I'm pretty good at it, based on my experiences. And so it's like I want to get back to having fun, you know, but going through the healing process is like opening all of this stuff, within me, that I have to face and get rid of. And which goes back to like offloading what is too heavy, you know what I mean, within me, so that I'm more lightweight, so I am more agile in life, Um, so opening all that stuff up, looking at it, observing it, acknowledging it, and how it impacted me. It's, I don't know if by doing that fear has come up within me, or it was always there and I was just in denial of it, or was I just like pushing it away and trying to hide it from myself? I don't know. But there's a point to this. So today I went on an adventure. I was exploring, and then I went to go play, at the lake, at the water. And I had an interaction that was a reflection of my own self journey. And this is the whole reinforcing that life is a reflection, and it'll reflect where I am on the inside. It's like, because I'm vibrating at that frequency, or I'm at that frequency platform in the existence of fill in the blank. And because fill in the blank lives at this frequency, and so that's what anybody around me physically is also most likely at that same frequency. So on that same platform of existence, of consciousness, of awareness, right? And so something happened, and there's humans, and they're afraid. And they're so afraid. They are petrified by fear. Petrified by fear of something that I'm not afraid of, but they're afraid of. And I had to face this. Like, Oh my gosh. And as I was saying it out of my mouth, I was also listening to myself, telling myself the exact same thing. And I said, to some degree, I said, if you're afraid, then you can't have fun. If you're always afraid of this, then you're never going to be able to live your life. If you're afraid of this, you will never be able to go outside. You will never be able to go fun places. You will never be able to live. You will never be able to have fun. You have to choose between being afraid or having fun. And as I'm saying it, it's like I'm saying it to myself. It's a reflection. It's like an exact reflection. It's like, oh man, right? And I mean, petrified with fear. And it's like, is this a reflection of how petrified with fear I am? That what I'm saying is true must be true in many mansions, right? Many dimensions, many dimensions, many universes, many realities, many perceptions, many levels, many frequencies. It must be the truth, because the truth is true in all universes. So this must be the truth. And it must be the truth for me. So I had faced that today. And it was not wonderful. And I even found myself saying, this is not fun. This is miserable, because it's miserable being in a situation where those that are around me are afraid, right? Then it must be miserable for me to be around others when I am afraid. Because what seems like reason and logic to me is not. Because it's like I'm intoxicated. Like I'm under the influence of fear, and it's like a poison. And it's like, but it's like a poison like administered by a parasite. So it's like I'm under the influence of fear. Like everything I say can and will be used against me, right? I'm under the influence of fear. So like anything I say is not going to be logical necessarily, And I understand. And I mean, because I've been told so many times in different situations in life, because of how I feel about courage and how I feel about fear. I've been told many times, well, fear is what keeps us alive. Like fear is how humanity has been able to survive. Right? But, what I'm realizing now is like, yeah, survive. Yeah. Boy, do I know about survival. But there's a difference between surviving and thriving. And just barely surviving, is that really living? Thriving is living. I know that because I've experienced surviving and I've experienced thriving. And surviving is not really living. So, although it's quote unquote kept us alive, what was the quality of life? And I always come back to that, like the quality of life overall. I think I say that phrase a lot. I might say it a little bit too much. But it's like, that's how I feel about it, So then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about this, like, man, should I podcast about this? I'm thinking to myself while I'm going through this event, this crisis, this situation, this circumstance in life. Like, should I podcast about this today, or just maybe skip today, maybe just not podcast at all. Maybe I won't. And no sooner did I tell myself, nah, I don't really want to. I said that to myself internally, it's all within my own self. I said that, and let's see. These guys appeared. This is just a shot of the video that I actually took. And these ducks came up right up to me. And I've been to that area right there, that point plenty of times. I've never seen ducks over there. And actually, the only thing I've ever seen over there, I'd climb the mountain. I have a video of myself climbing the mountain and seeing eagles, like bald eagles and stuff. I think I have it on my Instagram, my company's Instagram reels. But I was taught that animals deliver messages. And no sooner did I think, no, I probably shouldn't podcast this. And then this comes up. You have the resources to navigate, share your knowledge, and have faith in your own abilities. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe then I should podcast about this. So here I am, podcasting about this. And I wanted to podcast about this mostly about the animals too, not just the reflection and stuff, but the animals, they appeared right when I was telling myself to not share this experience with others. They appeared to say, yes, share this experience with others. And isn't that a reflection? Nature, that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen in my life, is that nature is like very sharply a reflection of myself from the inside. It's like I can see myself being reflected on the things around me that were built by man. But when I'm in nature, I can really, it's very fast. Like the lag time, there is no lag time, and I can see the reflection of what's going on within me, like so fast. Only when I'm in nature. So I wasn't too surprised about this, but at the same time, just like, oh, man, how far have I fallen? That I've fallen into a place where I'm so afraid. And then I stop and I have compassion for myself. It's like, well, you've been going through healing. I didn't know that by going through healing, I was going to plummet, to the depths of the frequency, the lowest, densest frequency platform where it's just like fear reigns on high, no, reigns on low, so from the basement, no, fear reigns from the basement, so I didn't know that that's what would happen by facing my healing, And have I gotten comfortable with it? I'm starting to have to reprogram my own thought process, because while I was going through survival, I taught myself that, and it was at a young age, to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. But now that I'm wanting to move forward and, climb or rise or ascend or what have you, self-actualization. And I'm referring to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a good reference point, but because it's it's pretty precise, and then it's pretty right on, So self-actualization, like that's where I'm reaching for, right? My highest potential. And so I think I have exhausted the classes from life. Okay. I've exhausted the classes. I've taken them and retaken them like so many times on, the foundational part of the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I I think I've exhausted all of those classes. And I don't know if it's because I wasn't okay with my grade and I wanted to get a higher grade. I don't know. But now I want to go higher than that, and in so doing, I think I have to leave the programming I had programmed in myself behind, which is get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I think now I'm reprogramming myself to be comfortable with being comfortable. Be comfortable with being comforted. Because I found in this healing process of mine that I was so resistant to being comforted. Like it feels so foreign to me. To be comforted, to be encouraged. I feel so uncomfortable with that. Even though as I was going through my healing process, like everything in me is crying out for comfort. But then when comfort is there, it's like, what is this? Like it's like, no, you go, no. Like it's odd, I guess because I had walked through fire for so long, being scorched, because it's the only way to truly survive, because survival kind of demands it, well, no, it doesn't demand it, but to be thriving in survival. Yeah. So I think I'd been scorched by the refining fires for so long. Comfort is like, it's water. It's compassion is water to me, and in my opinion, I do talk a lot about like the elements, like in nature and stuff, because I'll go back to that in a second. Anyway, so pouring water on me when I've been so used to being scorched by fire, it's like, then there's steam, you know what I mean? And then it's like, it's just totally different. And it's, I don't know. And I think I'm still adjusting to that. Anyway, so a little tangent, a little bit about me. Okay, I grew up as a kid, like when I was a toddler, I actually didn't live in a house. I lived in a tent, or I lived in a pop-up little camper thing outside. And then later I lived in a trailer outside, like to where it's like I was outside most of the time, like in the wilderness. And I'm talking about like the wilderness, where there are bears, moose, elk, deer, mountain lions, wolves, all of those things, along with eagles and hawks and stuff like that eat cats. So having pets kind of doesn't go very well, because there's just too much wildlife. But like 100, gosh, see, I'm so tired. Like an hour away from society, like so far up in the mountains that you can't get to like medical care, like if there was an emergency, which there was, there was emergencies that occurred, or so far up in the mountains that the roads are so narrow that you can fall off of the roads, and it's a cliffside, which we did in the snow. you know, um, so far up in the mountains that the animals are not afraid of humans because the humans are the minority. Which we did, encounter animals that were not afraid, like a moose, that anyway, that's a different story. But and so on and so forth. I lived in different places that was just surrounded by a lot of the wilderness, and so I'm used to that. Then later in my life, still in my childhood, um, I lived in the desert, in the mountains of the desert, real desert, where there's Gila monsters and tarantulas and snakes, rattlesnakes, cactuses, saguaro cactuses, all kind of cactuses, and scorpions of all sizes and shapes. I didn't have any running water. In many cases, I didn't have any running water, or real toilet, which means real toilets. A lot of times I didn't. A lot of times in my childhood. A lot of my childhood, I did not have running water or toilets, or showers for that matter. So nature is it's more natural to me. And I understand things through analogies. I think everybody does, but my analogies are usually always towards nature and wildlife and the elements, water and air and fire, earth. Because it just makes sense to me because it's something that doesn't change. It's consistent. And that's comforting to me, I think. So let me tell a story. It's like one time, driving down the mountain, I was just a little kid. I was like 5. And there was me and 2 other kids in the back of a Toyota Corolla. And there were, the parents, the adults, the grown-ups. One is driving and one is in the passenger seat, and they're talking and stuff. And it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark. Extremely dark. And, winding narrow road down the mountain. And then here comes a giant moose. A giant moose. Now, if you know anything about moose, they're very territorial and they get very upset. If they get upset at you, better run. Just get out of the way. So we were in their territory apparently, even though it's like, but this is a man road, right? This is man's road. Yeah, the moose was not having it, and it was very large. So we had to actually stop the car. And so the headlights are looking straight ahead at the moose, and the moose is not moving, but looking straight at the vehicle. And I wonder if the moose thought that the vehicle was an animal, because that's what it's doing. It's like vehicle versus the moose, but was inside of the vehicle were little humans, right? And the moose is just staring us down. It was the most terrifying thing that I've ever seen. It's the headlights looking directly at the moose, and you see the eyes, the reflection off of the eyes, and the eyes just staring at this huge rack, right? These antlers were huge. And the grown-ups were like, what do we do? Because if you know anything about like hitting an animal with a car, which I know a lot about actually. So it will total your car, especially a little tiny little Toyota Corolla, right? So from the 90s. And actually I think it was a Toyota Corolla from the 80s. I don't know. So you can't just try to drive forward and be move, and no, it won't. Especially because it was staring us down none shall pass, So it's oh God, do we have to brace for impact? And yeah, we did. So then the grown-ups yell to us, even though it's a very tiny Toyota Corolla, so we can hear them. They didn't need to yell for us to get our heads down. And so we all put our heads down between our knees, and the moose came charging straight at the car. Not ran, like just kind of jumped, like walked, because it's so big. Like it's just kind of like walked on top of the car, and was denting, because it's so heavy, was denting the top of the car. Gets to the back of the car, uses its rear legs, and just shatters all of the glass all over all of us, and then proceeds to just use his body weight and his antlers to just beat the crap out of the car. Beat the crap out of the car from all sides. It was like being inside of a tin can and just a gnarly beast just beating up the tin can. Is like, we are inside of this, you know? And then in trying to beat up the car, it lost one of its antlers, like a whole one half of its rack gone. And then this red truck appears, and it's like I can't remember if it's like a Ranger or something like that. And it was like, oh my gosh, and then like started making sounds to try to get the moose to go away. The moose would not leave. It was like, it's standing there, terrifyingly standing there, still staring, with only half of an antler rack still remaining. And it will not budge. And like, so this truck, oh my gosh, is there anybody in here? You know, it's got like, and there's people from the truck, and they're looking on the inside, and they're like, oh my gosh, there's people in here. So because they've got like flashlights and stuff, and plus their headlights are like looking. The moose is still not moving. And so they help get the doors open so that we can all like get out of the vehicle. And they pack us into their truck so then they can take us, you know, to the nearest place, which was actually where we had come from. So I guess we were just going to spend the night, sleep on the floor or something. But because we were quite a few hours away from our destination. And so while we were getting out, and there was glass everywhere, like, and some of us got, you know, cut by the glass. There was like blood everywhere, and it's terrible. But it's like, oh my gosh, it's staring right at us. So it was like nightmares for a while about moose, you know, and an unlikely beast that would just be like in the realm of nightmares, you know. But it's true. They're very territorial. So the Toyota Corolla was totaled. It was completely that moose accomplished its goal, and it beat the crap out of that vehicle to where it will never move again. So they had to, you know, have somebody come tow that away, and it was completely totaled. But yeah, that's, you know, one story. I've got so many. It's so many, and they're fun to tell. Oh, the moose. It's still, I can see it just clear as day, that it's just staring in its eyes, and it's just like huge, you know, because the moose, they can get to be like 13 feet tall, you know, they're freaking massive animals. And they're pretty docile as long as you're not in their territory. You know, as long as you don't make them mad. You know, they don't have like sharp teeth or anything. They're like a bull. You know, like, or like a cow, but like a bull. Like the males are like a bull, but yeah, and they'll charge, you know, just like that. So it's like, it's wild. But I was, so while I was facing this about being afraid, I realized, oh, and the ducks got like super close today. And there was actually like a human nearby with their dog. And I had tried to talk to the human, and the human kind of just like shrugged me off and just like ignored me. And it was like, fine, whatever. Well, then these ducks came up and got really close, which I'm used to that. You know, I'm used to nature getting really close to me because I I've spent I spent a lot of my life in nature, so it's not like uncommon for me to experience that. But I guess for an onlooker, it's like, whoa. And so the human was like, wow, those ducks got really close to you. That there's something special about you. Like, and they could tell. And I'm like, oh, oh, you're talking to me now? No. Oh, I'm a relevant being in your universe now. Cool. No. So and then it hit me like, yeah, and then I proceeded to say, well, nature, I love nature, and it gets close to me as long as I get close to it, and I haven't been close to it for a while because I've been so afraid of just a lot of things that I've been going through, which has kept me away from everything, including nature, which is so strange, but you know, it's part of my healing process. But I'm like, yeah, I love nature, and I a lot of my life I grew up in the wilderness. I feel more comfortable with nature. It's society that is terrifying, you know. Um, and then the human went on to laugh because it's like, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, yeah, makes sense to me anyway. I don't know if it makes sense to anybody else. Let me check and see if there's anything I need to be saying. How many minutes are we in here? I don't know. I just keep going, you know. Okay. I'm just drinking my tea. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, was like what happened today and what I learned from it. I'm remembering things, which is that plugging into nature, I can hear myself better. Because if everything around me is a reflection, then I can hear myself better when I'm in nature. There's no blockages, there's no lag. And the ducks kind of like reaffirmed that for me, which I'm really happy about. I can't think of anything else right now that's pressing on my mind. I'll just keep sipping my tea and figure that out. I think I'm just going to keep going into the things that I feel afraid of, you know, and keep pushing into it. So then if I face it, then it doesn't have power over me. And I think that's all. Thank you for listening.